Hi, everyone, and welcome to this roundtable about impact investing. Thank you for being with us on this Friday afternoon at this time. So, what is impact investment? Impact investment are investments that are made with the intention of generate positive and measurable social and environmental impact, alongside, of course, with some financial return. And in the recent years, impact investing has been very, very popular. And a lot of announcements from a big financial institution actually support this trend. Bain Capital, UBS, TPG Growth just joined, in fact, the impact bandwagon, announcing big investment in big games in this area. So today we're going to have the roundtable discussing several aspects of impact investment with two major speakers, major experts in this area. We have Mika Picco with us and Gianluca Dettori, and I will briefly introduce them. Mika is actually the director of the Center of Expertise for Impact Investing in Finland. This is a very young center that was created in January of this year. And in the past, he has been actually leading the effort in Citra for several years related to impact investing. And he is an international player. He has worked for many international organizations. And I would say one of the key achievements of Mika is the Earth symbol system that is very well known in Finland. And this food labeling system that indicates the food that is best for your health, because Mika actually worked in well-being for many years. The second speaker that is with us is Gianluca Dettori. Gianluca Dettori is the executive chairman of a very well-known investment fund, Primo Miglio SGR. Is an early stage venture capital fund based in Italy. And Gianluca is a seasoned manager in the high-tech industry, and has an international experience both in Europe and in US. And he actually has been in the field of being an entrepreneur for many years. So he brings not only all the intuition he has for business, but very strong practical experience into this. So welcome Mika and Gianluca to the roundtable.
Hello everybody.
Thank you.
Very good. So the plan today is somehow to go like a 300 degree. So we'll explore a bit, what are some of the key elements of impact investing, why it is emerging, and so on. So maybe let's start with Mika, and then of course also Gianluca. Feel free to contribute whenever you want. So we see from the news how hot and trendy impact investing is getting a lot of traction. The question is, why now? Why didn't it happen before? So why now it can be considered the good context, in fact, for the growth interest from us, or from financial people on impact investing. Mika, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all colleagues, and thank you, Andrea, for the very nice introduction. I didn't know that I have done so much, or what I have done anyway. But what comes to the impact investing, I think that when we start to talk about impact investing, we should somehow set the frame for the discussion in terms of a continent, or in terms of a phenomenon or themes with which we think to use the idea of impact investing, because I think that impact investing in general means very different things, for example, in Nordics than in Italy or southern part of Europe, or even if we talk about Africa or any other emerging market. So impact investing, the idea which you described very well, is a very good one from our and from my perspective. I think that the global world really needs this kind of thinking and this kind of practical activities if we want to make sure that the development is sustainable. But again, and as you know, that the impact investing market has growth very rapidly during last years, and it's about 700 billion US dollars at the moment or something like that. So it means that there's a real need, but again, impact investing plays a little bit different role in different continents, and we should maybe talk a little bit more about that kind of different perspective, because it's not any kind of general impact investing approach as far as I think and understand it. And one more thing, then I promise to stop, is that as you mentioned, that impact investing has been a very popular, let's say, term during last 10 years.
Right.
But it also means that there are a lot of some kind of impact washing included to this market already. You know, everybody wants to talk about impact investing and pretend to do something in terms of impact investing. But in practice, it's something very traditional and something which is very different from the idea of impact investing. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Gianluca, do you want to add something? I want to go back to Mika then, maybe to elaborate a bit more on somehow the localization of impact investing, so that maybe we can cover also that aspect. Gianluca?
I think Mika is right. I would say that there is a huge, let's say, how can I say, attention right now to sustainability. And that is across society, but also investors are taking note of this, especially because typically, and of course, maybe my view will be the one of somebody that is involved in the venture capital industry. And so maybe it's as a partial view of this phenomenon. But in general, I think long-term investors that have long-term view to their activity, maybe pension funds, the typical institutional investors that we talk to, they often have a 20 to 30-year view in front of them when they make investment decisions, and therefore it is, I think, sustainability. It's clear that if you look at it in the long term, is a key aspect. And now every investor, even if you're not specifically an impact investing fund, will ask you about ESG criteria and how you comply with ESG. All of us, we regularly report ESG criteria. In the new funds that we're doing, all the funds will be ESG compliant.
Yeah.
Now, of course,
sorry, Gianluca, maybe if you can just specify what the ESG means, so that the audience, not everyone is,
okay. It's fundamentally a set of criteria that investors require these days to general partners, so to people like us that deploy the money, whereas fundamentally you have to adopt certain criteria in your activity, taking care of elements that have to do with sustainability and social, let's say, impact of what you do in terms of labor, gender equality, environment. So making, you have to make sure you have to comply and to report to investors what you do in terms of, a set of, 64, I think, something like that.
Right.
Criteria, and you set up how can I say, your own way to deal with that. And so that's a general trend. Then specifically, I think the reason why impact investing as a sector is being so interesting is because fundamentally it's very capital efficient. I've seen a lot of investors in the past 15 years moving from philanthropy to venture philanthropy to impact investing, which is a natural, let's say, evolution, because it makes it, with the money is much more capital efficient in generating impact. And the most advanced investors that I've seen are venture capital investors in impact, because those investors that will actually create enable change at the very beginning. And if you apply the venture method to impact investing, of course, you can be very scalable in achieving impact, much more than other means of investing.
Sorry, Andrea. May I ask one question from Gianluca?
Absolutely.
What do you think, Gianluca, if I say that the impact investing is a more mature way to do responsible investments?
I totally agree. It's the most. It's probably the best way to implement capital. And again, I have to say, in venture capital, in terms of generating impact with the capital that you have in a sustainable way across many years. When you support a non-profit activity, often the activity will be over. But if you invest in a company that will pursue the same objectives, and the company becomes a business that self-standing, it will keep along, in generating impact for many, many, many years. And if you generate a high growth company that does generate impact, of course, the scale of the impact they can achieve is pretty big. I think in venture capital, we are very much used to this because many of our investors, they search for what they call double returns. So they require to us to provide a significant profit for the risk they're taking in investing in our funds. But they often have a second, let's say, objective, that is not necessarily financial. For example, a bank foundation in Italy will invest in venture capital because they want us to support the economic development of their territory, of their region. And so, therefore, we have, for example, an important organization as an investor in our fund, but as managers, we have committed our time, a certain attention and time to actually generate an impact in that specific region where they are from. So it's a pretty common concept in venture capital. I think applied to social impact is even more interesting and intriguing. And I totally agree with you.
Okay, that's very good. So I want actually to come back to two things. The first one is to Mika. So if we can go a bit more in detail on the concept of localization of impact investing, and then I would like to go back to Gianluca on what he mentioned, the efficiency of the investment. That is something that resonates well, with an investor. So maybe let's start with Mika first.
You mean in what I mean when I'm talking about localization of impact investing? Maybe I can give very practical example. When we started to work with impact investing in Finnish Innovation Fund S.r.l. in 2014, it was the first time in Finland when we started to talk about impact investing. And then S.r.l, which is that kind of independent think and do tank. And S.r.l was one of main players to import to the idea to import the idea of venture capital to Finland then 15 years ago or something. So our first reaction was there in S.r.l that impact investing would mean venture impact investing. But then we started to think that in a Nordic country like Finland, you know the basic idea of a Nordic welfare system. The public sector takes care of everything important, and we are very equal. And then we recognize that it's going to be very difficult to really prove the additional value coming from private capital if those investments are, let's say, that kind of venture style traditional investments with a very strong intention to achieve something beneficial. That was a reason that as a S.r.l, in terms of impact investing, we started to focus on social impact bond, the one way to implement the idea of impact investing, because that was the way to be able to prove the additional value coming from private capital in our region. But then when we are talking about Africa, there's a lack of there's lack of healthcare system. If you make some investments in order to get clear water to the village, that is a great impact investment, but it's a very different story than in our Nordic circumstances. Maybe was I able to tell what I meant?
Yes, that impact investing may mean different things.
Very, very different. Yeah.
socio-economic situation of
Yeah.
the area in which you're investing,
and culture and everything.
Yes, what in fact impact means. It depends on the change that you can force in that particular area. So in Italy, impact investing means one thing, because again there are several issues that impact investing can address, but are very different from South of Africa, or even North of Africa versus South of Africa versus Asia. Yeah, by the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Andrea Basso. I'm an advisor to the Progress Tech Transfer Fund that invests in sustainability. It's an Italian fund that is also relatively recent and started in January 2019 and part of the Itatech initiative. So, for us, impact investing is the daily bread. I mean, it's something that we have to deal continuously. So, I would say, Gianluca and Mika, I would say that the impact investing as a concept, can we say that actually it really matters, that is here for staying, or do you see something more in transition? So it is something that it's more a trend now, but has good probability of dying as a trend in the future. What is your opinion with respect to that?
Gianluca,
I think it's your turn. Prego.
No, I think it's here to stay, in the sense that it's just an evolution of in a way things that have always been done. I think it's a more adequate, it's a more adequate instrument in our society today, especially because often we are facing very big challenges. And to address those challenges that are, affecting society today, we often need the radical innovation. You mentioned water. I have the privilege of being a Kaufman Fellow, and there is a friend of mine in Asia that has been managing the last 15 years, one fund, $200 million fund, only about water, with one single investor, a very wealthy guy, that fundamentally wants to bring water to Asian people. And that's what he wants to do with his money. But of course, since my friend that manages the fund is a very good investor, he can achieve two results: return the 200 million so that you can revolve the fund year after year, and mostly being a venture investor, searching for entrepreneurs that really want to tackle in a very major way the water problem of cleaning, making it clear, distributing it, bringing it to the people, pipelines and things like that. So having that kind of a mindset of combining impact and venture capital, which means searching for high impact entrepreneurs that have radical, let's say, solutions to major problems. That kind of approach, I think, is the future for investing in general. I think in the future, maybe it's a bit of a radical way, but I think as we go along in society in the next years, there will be no venture, at least for venture capital, but in many other areas, every venture investor will be somehow an impact investor. I think the main difference is that maybe you have to state what impact you want to achieve, what is that you want to bring to the table, so that it also can be measured in terms of results. But I don't see my job and my colleagues in the next 20 years. We're not
without
just
impact investing. Yeah, right.
There are definitely different asset classes that are, let's say, have a maybe better combination of risk rewards. Venture capital, if we would count the externalities of venture capital to society, it's a very profitable investment for society in general, even if the financial returns are not big.
Okay.
So I really think it's here to stay. I think it's just an evolution of thinking and practice, having practitioners. But I think that's actually the way for society to go, hopefully, in the future.
Right. No, I agree. I can also say my own opinion here, as investor that invests in sustainability. It's I would say something that it's a must-have. and it's an important choice in the kind of investment that you can do. And also, I have to say, impact investing doesn't mean that you're making less money. That is what I'm really realizing on the field, because we do investment all the time, and we are realizing that in fact it shouldn't be a class B investment. In fact, the impact investing, adding the social component, adding the possibility of really having a meaningful impact, it's a plus, I would say, but doesn't really touch, because there are plenty of opportunities on this. Yeah. Mika, what do you think?
I think that I would like to challenge you both a bit, because I mostly agree what you said, okay. But somehow I want to challenge, because I'm a social scientist as my background, and I have been working with health and well-being issues all my life, also funding and investment. But I'm not coming from that market, so maybe my perspective is a little bit different. So I come back to what Gianluca said, that about the venture capitalist, and you always want to achieve some impact, and it's very, very, very important for the society. But then I ask, or I say that there are a lot of, let's say, so-called very well-doing companies who are doing, the cash flow is huge and they are growing all the time. But at the end of the day, they are causing that kind of harms. At the public sector has to make a lot of different things in order to fix those problems caused by those companies, and public sector has to use taxpayers' money in order to do that. Given that shareholders are doing at the same time good money, of course every investment has some impact, and they are footprint and handprint for me. And I think that what we have to look after is the handprint, that we really, as you, Andrea, said that when we started, that we intentionally want to achieve something good, and we are also able to measure that what we have achieved by doing that. So, again, what the term impact means, we can use that in very different way, and I don't know if anyone is not correct. But again, do we really talk about same story?
Right.
This was a challenge to you.
I think Mika is totally right, actually, and it is true that it's one of those buzzwords that they fly around, and therefore they kind of like they dilute their meaning. What I mean by impact investing is what Mika was saying. I mean, you have to upfront state, also because your investors want to know what is the impact that you're searching for. I mean, and measure it, monitor it, and report it. And typically, impact investing funds also have bonuses for the management team. I mean, normally the carried interest is connected to the impact results, not only the financial results, and this is key. And maybe I'm a bit of an optimistic, but I have to say that we see thousands of entrepreneurs, typically young, of course in tech, so they have a certain view. But fundamentally, what I must say that I see all the time is that always have a very clear idea about the role of entrepreneurs in society, which is not only to make money, but is to create jobs, to create a work environment which is favorable, or to specifically achieve some kind of a social impact besides just being entrepreneurs. I mean, I hardly see these days a young entrepreneur coming to me just saying this is a great idea just to make a lot of money. They typically come to me and say, this is a huge problem that we can address and we know how to solve it, and by the way, if we do this, we'll make a lot of money. So I think that hopefully, maybe I'm optimistic, but working with the new generation, they are very sensitive about these things. Right. And in general, companies that just don't consider these things important, they're not going to lead the markets in the future. They're going to be failing long term.
Yeah. I agree with
very briefly. I think. Andrea, very, very briefly, one very short comment. I think that, Gianluca, the key word is new generation in terms of that, what you were explaining.
Actually, you're coming to my next question. What are the demographic, in fact, more likely to become, impact investors. We hear millennials, women. What is your opinion, and how you see actually how this is connected with what we were saying? So the young generation is probably driving, the change, and will drive also the change in investing. So what is your opinion on that?
Mika?
If I start, I would say that maybe I'm a little bit naive and dreaming about new kind of world, but I really hope that after COVID crisis, there are more and more impact investor minded people all over the world, men and women, young and old ones. Because I think that one thing which COVID has showed us is that no single person or no single community or no single country can do anything by itself. We really need each other. And from that perspective, I really think that the idea of impact investing is something which should be implemented globally and very strongly by everyone who has anything to do with a capital allocation in future. This was a very naive answer. I agree, but this is how I dream and I think now at the moment.
The wisdom and hope, and I agree with you. But then I have a small challenge for you also. Now, we see these two trends. On one side, we see companies that, and businesses in general that are globally connected. Now, to be connected around the world is much, much easier. But on the other, we see states that tend to instead be much more closed and set the barriers and walls, virtual or real, around them. How you see what you said happening in the investing, or what you think can be the driving force for breaking these walls, or changing in something else.
Maybe Gianluca can continue, but I start by this answer by saying that you were talking about companies and governments, but you are talking about human beings. There are no companies without people. There are no governments without people. So we are talking about human beings, and then we have to ask that why people who are working for governments are doing something very different from the people who are working for the companies, which want to be very strong networking based ideas and that kind of things. And again, I think that after COVID, we have to understand there are that kind of so many necessary connection between each country and each part of the world that we have to be able to learn and understand that. So again, I think that I'm a little bit naive, but I think that companies and governments are people.
You're right. And I hope myself, I would love to be
I'm
able
coming
to
from
come
Finland.
back.
I'm coming from Finland. I believe that Santa Claus is really living here, so I can also believe that we can change our minds and do things a little bit more sustainable way in future.
Right. I've been to Helsinki several times, and to Espoo, and definitely it's a beautiful country and beautiful spirit. I love the people over there. Now, Gianluca, what do you think about the demographic? Do you agree with Mika, or do you think that the thing will be shaped differently?
No, I mean, first of all, as I said, I speak to a new generation entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs. So those kind of people have this mindset. So it's this generation. I mean, if you were born these days, you definitely have a huge sensitivity on on environmental issues, sustainability, lifestyle, well-being, these kind of things. I actually, me too. I'm optimistic. I mean, I have to do it because of this job. I mean, you must be optimistic by definition. But I think the COVID thing has created a disruption in society. For the simple reason that I think it's really the first time that all the people in the planet, they felt at the same time and they lived through at the same time through the same challenges. Very basic, simple challenges related to our environment again. So and also the other thing, at least here in Italy, a lot of people realize how things can be done differently, and actually it still works, and actually it's even better. I mean, we've experienced with our kids the lockdown, and see now remote education. Of course, there was an emergency, so it wasn't thought of. But now, if we can think about it and combine physical work in classroom, outside work in the woods for kids and children, and homework in much more compelling and interesting way through remotes, I mean, we definitely have a better society in many, many ways. We have a better education, we have a better environment, we have less polluted cities. I mean, so things can be done. And I think that Mika said something very important before, and this is actually, I'm not very optimistic because of that. It is the disruption between governments and companies, and the fact that we have now companies are so powerful and big and global, and they act globally, they act, to dominate the planet. And they are they're definitely more fast and aggressive and innovative than governments, and governments are lagging behind. And we see this in many ways. Of course, in the digital sector, it's so obvious. But I mean, in many other areas, I think that the issue is that really, when you tackle global problems, there is not really a global government for those problems. And of course, then you go into localities, and then things start to become complicated. So I think we are not ready. We don't have the instruments, the political instruments, as a humanity, and it's somehow weird considering that we have the internet these days. So we are really connected, instantly, globally, everybody. But if you think about it, we have no instrument whatsoever to really govern those that we feel are big issues. I mean, the environment, the air quality, the food quality, pollution, with the welfare systems. I mean, there are so many topics. But when they're global, there is not an entity that you can talk to that is actually responsible and actually has the power and drive change. So that's why I think that's the situation is so worrying, because everybody is seeing the problem, but nobody has the courage to act, and there is no incentive to do it, actually.
Right, but so do you think that there should be some entity, super national entity, and even supercontinent entity that there should be a normative support? What do you think could be?
I'm not an expert in these kind of things, but definitely there should be, certain, global problems should be tackled from a global point of view, because otherwise there is always going to be the one not complying and just getting an unjust advantage because of that.
Right. This probably, in my opinion, this probably is going to happen. As we defined a minimum level of laws. If you take all the laws, international laws and national laws, there is a common ground, defined. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to live together. And probably something similar will happen also from an investment perspective, because again, it's how to direct the source of enabling the development of technology, development of a variety of things, solution of problems, in a way in which it's good for society. So maybe something's going to happen also toward that direction, also because there is a strong push, I believe, really from the young generations. We have seen things in the last 5 years that are quite different from how things were when I was young.
May I say two very short comments? The first one is that we should remember that old wisdom that we are not able to fix problems in the same way than we have caused those problems. We should really have courage to do things different way if we really want to fix those challenges which are facing at the moment. And the other thing is, one of that kind of great opportunity which I really see and believe in is that we have a lot of opportunities to combine public money and private capital together much more effective and impactful way than we have done until now. And we just have to have some kind of more strong global framework, as Gianluca asked after, and to be able to do that. I think that we have money enough from that perspective, but we just have to combine those two elements together much more strongly way than we have been able to do until now.
Right, and I would add a third one. I agree that there is a need, so now we have to do it, and I agree also that we have better instruments to do it. But I would, come back to what Gianluca was saying before. There is a change in mentality. So people is realizing that if you do things differently, a bit better for the environment, after all, is actually pretty good, and you have a better life, and overall, you're not making less money.
Yeah.
And we see, more and more companies actually going toward that direction. So I think these are three important aspects that relate to impact investing. Gianluca, I wanted to come back to you regarding what you were saying about efficient investment. No, can you elaborate a bit more, because that seems to be an important concept. In fact, that is not always, I would say, discussed, but is actually a strong engine to push impact investing.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was saying. I was talking about capital efficiency in that sense. I think the analogy of philanthropy and impact investing, venture impact investing is that, right? Let's say that you want to achieve impact on a certain objective, and you fund for 10 years a no-profit organization that will actually do some things. That's one way to do it. But for 10 years, you have to keep pouring money, paying for a service essentially that you felt was needed, paying for what was missing. Another way to look at that, if you find an entrepreneur that wants to build an organization, a company, to achieve those results, fundamentally, and you act as a venture capitalist, you enable the entrepreneur, you support it with capital, with networks, building teams, raising further capital. Fundamentally, if this is successful, of course, there is always risk involved. But at the end of the 10 year, you will count the impact that you had through the company, through the entrepreneur, through venture investing, through impact investing, and just through philanthropy. Just the difference of the same amount of money per dollar invested, per euro invested, the difference is just another thing. I mean, it's just completely, another scale of things. That's what I mean by capital efficiency. How much can you impact by investing €1?
Right.
And again, of course, I have only a certain angle of the view, which is not probably the reality, but from my point of view, which is venture capital, since you're always investing in entrepreneurs that want to change the world, that want to have a high impact, you will make mistakes in the investments, of course, but those that will actually make it will achieve a huge impact. I mean, we've calculated, just to give you a different point of view, we've calculated in our first fund in Italy 10 years ago. It was a €6 million seed fund. There was no venture capital at the time, so it was really something very, very particular, can I say. But we just calculated the amount of jobs that we created, the money that went into welfare because of the salaries that we paid.
Right.
For those 6 millions, and divided up those numbers, just another scale of, let's say, the money typically a public entity will spend to generate a job. It's a scale of 10. So for if Italy, by with normal policies can create a job with €50,000, we created a job with €5,000. Right. And it's a long-lasting job. That's the other thing. It will go on, not only it will go beyond the fund is 10 years long, but probably will keep generating impact also after the 10 years, as long as the company will be operating under those objectives.
Right. That comes actually perfect for my next point of discussion. How we can measure the success or failure of impact investing. I mean, one factor is what you were mentioning, Gianluca, because I can do impact investing that is very short lived. So it's just a spike. I create maybe some buildings and so on, but maybe there in the desert there is no water. So yes, I create the building, but the ecosystem is not there, so they will never be used. And it's like a spike. Some of the buildings in Italy, right, are like that are built but never used. And instead, impact probably means something else. Has this notion of time, so that it can create value, but in a time frame that is not days, for sure. And also, there is the notion of failure. So, Mika, do you want to comment on that, and then maybe Gianluca can add?
Yes, I really want to comment that I try
Sure,
to do as free
I knew that you wanted to talk about that.
I try to do that as briefly as possible, because I think that now I'm challenging Gianluca very much, because we have an idea in Finland. We have focused very much on outcomes contracting idea and that approach, and that means really that we are combining public sector money to the private capital, and private capital bear the risk in order to do something, for example, in terms of enhancing employment, and then public sector pays as a bonus back that invested capital when we have achieved what we want to achieve. And that was one way to really to do that. But always we think that we have to do some kind of societal modeling. We call that societal modeling, which means that we have to understand the phenomenon. If we are talking about, for example, well-being of families, or what if we are talking about prevent type 2 diabetes, we really have to understand what that phenomenon includes. And then we have to be able to set the impact goal for what we want to achieve in, for example, in 10 or 15 years. But in fact, and at the same time, we have to understand that what kind of changes we have to make happen in order to achieve the final impact. And then we can come back to the measurement. I think that we are very much able to measure those outcomes, those changes which we need to make happen in order to achieve the final impact. And I would rather talk about really almost outcomes investing rather than impact investing sometimes, because
Right.
I think that really that we are able to achieve, measure those outcomes, but the final impact, it's very, very difficult, because there are so many different things which are influencing to the same issue. And even if you are doing your work very well by using private capital, the final impact can be negative, because there are so much opposite powers behind. Did you get that idea? So
Yeah,
for me, it's
absolutely.
really, yeah, that's my idea. So I think that it's very much measurable. A lot of things are measurable, companies doing, but we should talk sometimes and rather almost about outcomes rather than the final impact.
I agree 100%, because in general, to generate impact, you need a lot of you have a lot of dependencies of a lot of other elements.
Yeah.
And while you're investing, you in general touch just one piece of
Yeah, that's an outcome for me, and then you
the
can
whole
measure the really. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Gianluca, what do you think?
Oh no, I totally agree. I totally agree. And as we said it before. I mean, if you do impact investing, you should state upfront. You have a plan upfront, clear about what you want to achieve in terms of impact, what you're going to track and measure, and that's going to be coded in the fund rules. So it cannot be too generic. I mean, of course, it needs to be broad enough so that you can actually do it, because otherwise, we go back to it's not investing anymore. It's philanthropy. We want to, make sure that this village in Africa has water. Then we should fund the water for the village. But when you go to a broader scope, again, it's as long as you set the targets and then you measure them. I think that's impact investing. That's the only way to do it.
Right.
So I think I totally agree with Mika on that. And again, probably it's not the only instrument. It's one of the instruments. It's a very powerful, if well used, instrument, impact investment. But it's not the only way, of course. It's a set of solutions that we need also financially to address this. But it's definitely a powerful one.
Right. So I like, actually, I agree also. I like the distinction between outcome and then impact. And then this brings me to another concept that maybe we can explore a bit. Uh, to generate an outcome, I think you can act, for example, as investment fund, and you set up a set of actions, and you do a set of investment. But maybe for generating an impact, you need a collaborative effort. In fact, that probably implies also much larger investment on several sectors. You may be expert in sustainability, but not in other areas. And to generate an impact, you need also these other areas to contribute as an investment. So how you see as possible evolution of impact investing in a form of collaborations among different funds, so that to reach the impact and generate outcomes. Do you see this something possible? Do you see something that is this is interesting, because again, every fund is trying to, they still quite egoistic approach, individualistic approach. Sorry, it's more appropriate. But a lot of things actually in our culture moved from individualistic approach to collaborative approach. Do you see this also happening in the investing area, simply because the impact concept is pushing so strongly into this, or it's too early? So what do you think?
Gianluca, you can say, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of early in Europe. I think this is kind of new in Europe. I have a few friends that do impact investing in other geographies. In the US, for example, there is really a big ecosystem there. For example, on these kind of topics, and many different kind of investors. So it's very common to find different funds and entities and organizations collaborating around impact projects in the United States. But you do have a big ecosystem. You have also this big idea of giving back from the entrepreneurs that so there is really so many initiatives and different kind of entities and a culture for that I think we're really behind in Europe. I mean, it's kind of new, but I mean that's the direction. I mean, in venture we always co-invest simply because it's not really money that we provide to the entrepreneurs. Yes, there is money involved in what we do, but it's really access to the market, enabling growth, getting talent, going global. It's the kind of support that it goes beyond the money, that is really makes the difference in what venture capital is about. We're not just an entity that sends you the money. We're gonna try, we're gonna fight with you on your company for 10 years to get the results.
I agree. I just want to do a quick comment when you said you want to give back. I heard this morning a podcast that was saying if you feel that you have to give back, probably you took too much. So that's an interesting. It goes on the social aspect, in part of impact investing, that Mika was mentioning before. Mika, what do you think?
Again, I remind you that my coming point is very different than venture capital. So my answer, I come back to the outcomes contract, which I mentioned already, that maybe that there's that kind of process running and coordinated by European Investment Bank, and the meaning of the process is to challenge EU countries to think more about the possibilities in terms of outcomes contracting. And I explained that taxpayers' money is based on outcomes rather than that is allocated to have different kind of activities. And I understand that process, which we are implementing in Finland at the moment, that when government and public sector start to say that we really want to have this and this kind of outcomes, and then there are a lot of different kind of service providers, private companies, NGOs, however you want to call those organizations, but including really very hard private companies also, not, let's say, only social enterprises, because I'm rather talk about impact actors, impact-driven businesses than anything else. So, when governments are saying that we want to achieve this and this and this and this kind of outcomes, then there's a very large market for different kind of service providers, and behind those can be a very different kind of funds or different funds. But the framework is same for all, and they are doing. Maybe they understand that they are doing cooperation, but even that they don't understand that they are doing cooperation. In fact, they are doing cooperation because they all are going to the same direction in order to make those outcomes happen. That maybe I'm dreaming again, but I see that again that there's a huge opportunity if we can combine public money to the private capital in that way in the longer term. It gives a lot of space for the private capital market.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree also. So that's a quite important instrument, and the PPP has been PPP actually has been pushed really a lot also from the European Commission. Now, one thing that I wanted to discuss, we talked about several aspects of impact investing, and mainly a lot of the pros of impact investing. What do you see as the cons? So the negative aspects of impact investing.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a little bit what we said before. I mean, there is a lot of clutter around this idea. There is a lot of, let's say, social entrepreneurs, social investors. I mean, there is a lot of, let's say, so there are people that are doing this seriously, professionally, and actually achieving results. And there is a lot of people that kind of use the buzzword to do whatever they do. So I think the cons is that it's again that under this umbrella, so many different things can relate, and not everything is good. And another thing that I noticed for example, more in the ESG approach to things, which is setting certain criteria, and then from financial investors, from LPs, and then trying to track those criteria in the investments that you make. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a very challenging, it's a very challenging road, because really understanding what's happening. If a certain product is manufactured in respect of labor laws and human dignity, wherever it's with this T-shirt is actually built sustainably, without at fair price, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's kind of difficult, I would say, to actually really make sure that these criteria are really parameters that can be tracked seriously. So again, the risk that I see here is again another buzzword to sell more T-shirts,
right?
To actually change the T-shirt market.
To hide the old mentality in a new shell.
And again, because the consumer, the people, the society is asking for this. I mean,
right.
We certainly like being able to pay tomatoes, €1 per kilo in the supermarkets in Italy, but there's a lot of people, there's a lot of consumers that be happy to pay 1.5, €2 a kilo, but making sure that the immigrants that they actually worked 8 hours, they were paid decently, and they had a place to sleep that is decent and human. Right. But who really tracks for that and makes sure that this happens? It's really a tricky solution.
Right. I agree 100%. Mika?
Me too, I agree very much. I would say that you have to remember that I get my salary from impact investing. But despite I'm saying that we don't have to talk about impact investing if good things are happening without having this term. I think that the most important issue is that our world is going to the sustainable direction, and if we need to use a term impact investing in order to make that happen, then let's use that, but let's keep in our minds what that should mean, as you had described very well, the intention and everything, as you both have described. And let's keep that impact investing can give that kind of additional value, because that means that we really want to achieve something, we are ready to measure, and so as you had described. But if those things are happening, let's those things happening without mixing term impact investing. That I don't know if you understand, but I mean that everything doesn't have to be impact investing if the world is going to the right direction. Otherwise, but
I
let's
agree. And in fact,
yeah.
my
Did you
own
catch my idea? Yeah.
opinion, this is just a beginning. It's a changing culture. We
Yeah.
call it now impact investing, but probably on the long term, coming back to what you, Mika, and also Gianluca were saying, this will become part of somehow the common ground for doing investing, because all the rest will be somehow banned, or anyway, it will be made difficult to happen, simply because either there is a push, as you, Mika, were saying, we cannot do differently. In fact, I'm waiting to. I always am very careful with water, and I see this wasted in multiple ways, and I'm always imagining the day in which someone will say, "Oh yeah, in the past we could keep the faucet open, but now we need really to use every single drop of water that is coming out because it's becoming really precious as gold." So having this kind of pressure. But to me, the term impact investing on the long term will disappear, because it will be something that will be given for granted. Otherwise, it won't be accepted by society, and so it won't be able to happen. We have a question from the audience that I want to pose. It's something that I wanted to discuss later, and is a question for both of you. Gianluca mentioned that big sponsors are looking for high impact entrepreneurs to create change, and from the audience we said that how can a typical entrepreneur, maybe not an innovator or a researcher, engage in the process of creating impact? There is any initiative or platform that can help different type of entrepreneurial mind to connect and somehow to become part of the impact investing bandwagon?
Yeah, well, actually, just to specify better, what I'm saying is that venture capital investors invest in high impact entrepreneurs. So venture capital is just a very small practice of finance, and equity finance in particular, or entrepreneurial finance. So, and it's, in fact, it's not good for everything. I've seen many very interesting ideas and businesses and companies and startups that were not suited for a venture investment, but were actually great companies that were probably going to be profitable and surely make it. So that's why also I say that probably venture capital and impact venture capital is not the only way to actually develop impact initiatives. I also am founder of an NGO, for example, and still, I believe that NGOs are a great tool that actually can do very good things, and they make sense. It's not. And again, an NGO can be also a very big company, a very big organization. Doesn't need to be specifically a small chain. Right. But in terms of specific platforms, I don't know. Definitely there is in our world a community called Startup Weekend. It's actually more like an event format of 2 days over a weekend, where in a weekend people can meet, discuss different ideas, and come out with a possible business plan of the idea at the end of the weekend. And in those events that are all over the world, very often you see social entrepreneurs with their ideas and searching for others that can help them in developing them and bringing them to the market. So probably what I would suggest is to search for a startup weekend around wherever you live and participate and experience it.
Yeah, I can also add, in fact, that there are quite a bit of platforms, I would say, today for responsible investing, impact investing. There is Open Invest, Earthfolio, S.r.l Invest, Wunder Capital, and as well as a lot of funds that characterize them as impact investment fund. So, you know, I mentioned just a few of these platforms, but are actually growing because there is quite a bit of request for this. So I would suggest that the listener just to Google it, Google impact investing platform, and we'll get a long list of places where he can find
yes, and I don't know if this is the answer to that question, but there are also a lot of different kind of accelerator programs going on in terms of
yes.
impact-driven businesses. For example, in Portugal, in Germany, and now we just started in Nordics with the joint effort between Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. We just started, or we are going to start next week, Impact Startup Accelerator Program, which is that kind of joint effort for Nordics impact-driven businesses, impact startups. And I think that similar kind of accelerator programs are also running different part of Europe. And I think that is also one step in order to get some investments coming in then.
Okay. Then I will ask, thank you, Mika. I wanted to ask to both Gianluca and Mika, how you got involved in impact investing. Can you share some anecdotes? Can you share how this started? You know, for your life. I mean, Mika, you said that you are paid by, you know, your salary is paid by impact investing. So you know, that somehow raised my curiosity to understand how this happened. And this is more directed to, you know, people that want to get involved into impact investing. So I don't know if you can share.
I don't know if my story any useful, because I belong to the 3-man group in 2013 in Finland who make an offer to Finnish Innovation Fund S.r.l, that think and do tank, in order to make a study how to implement the idea of impact investing to Finland. And we were sponsored by S.r.l, and we gave our report to S.r.l, and then S.r.l asked me to stay there and lead the development activities in terms of impact investing since 2014. So I've been working since that with these issues, and happy for that. And then, as you mentioned when we started, that then S.r.l finished its activities by the end of last year, and then our government established our Center for Expertise for Impact Investing, and I was lucky to continue to lead that entity. So I have been very lucky to have this kind of opportunity.
Yes. Gianluca, I don't know if you want to share something on this.
No, I just wanted to say that, first of all, my journey is ongoing. So I'm not there yet, but I know that I want to go there, and I know where I want to go. But actually, when I started venture capital, after my entrepreneurial life, when I sold my company, decided to do venture in Italy, the very fundamental reason for that decision for me was not only that I like this job in a way, I know this industry, but fundamentally for me was I wanted to have an impact on Italy. It was those years, I mean, we're talking about 15 years ago, there was this very big economic crisis, very huge unemployment still now in the young generations in Italy. And, you know, looking at my life, being able to build a big company through venture capital, what I thought, and there was no venture capital, no startup attitude, no startup communities in Italy, there was nothing whatsoever. Nobody was talking about it. Nothing was happening. And my thinking was, you know, since I made it, there's probably thousands of very smart young people in Italy, much better than me. They can do even better than what I did. And so that's why I started to do venture, because I really wanted to change that about my country. Wanted to make sure that we could tell our kids that there is different kind of opportunities in building your own company and accessing the global markets through the instrument of venture capital. Then actually, when I went to the Kaufman Fellow program in San Francisco, I found out that actually 1 out of 4 of my colleagues in venture were actually doing social investing. And I was surprised at how big that was. And I got connected to the beautiful organization that I really love called Endeavor. Actually, they've opened up in Italy as well in the past years. Actually, I helped them a lot for many, many years, the Endeavor team in New York, to help in Italy, and they finally made it. And I really liked that organization. It started out as a no-profit, but fundamentally the idea was using venture capital in geographies that have really difficult economic conditions to generate wealth and employment. and they were really successful in Mexico. They exported the model throughout Latin America, Northern Africa, Asia, and then arrived also in Italy. And that, I think that organization really led me, thinking very much, very deeply in terms of, this sector, and actually it's something that I'm really interested into getting more and more as an investor.
Right, right. So I can share also my experience. I spent many years in US, more than 17 years, part in Silicon Valley and part on the other coast. And when I came back, from US, I really wanted somehow to bring some of the expertise and actually have some form of impact. At that point, it was absolutely unclear what was the channel in which I could really impact, Italy. And when mainly the opportunity to have a fund, that is something that was in the back burner already many years ago, became concrete. Then everything came clear in a relatively short time. So in 1 year, together with all the other partners in the fund, we really understood that we could make a difference in sustainability in Italy. And this is an experience ongoing that is very satisfying. We promote a lot of technology coming from the Italian university or Italian research centers, and we discovered that there is a lot. So the simple impact is just to bring this to light. It's like discovering a gem hidden somewhere, and then helping them to grow and develop. And that takes a lot of time, and we are seeing amazing results. So I would say that one of the aspects of that is really the satisfaction that you get, in bringing technology that can really have a huge impact, that goes from textiles to agri-tech to food tech to life, so that they can be ready to be adopted. Ours is an early stage fund, so it is something that we do. We take care of this initial phase, of an idea or a company. And I would say that the satisfaction that you get is more than the money that you get out of this, also because we are very beginning. So it's something that still need to be monetized in a much stronger way. But it's a very positive experience into that. So we have another 20 minutes available, and I would like to somehow spend this time. We may have
Andrea,
yes.
Andrea, sorry. My apologies, but I should leave. As I mentioned, that I'm 400 kilometers from my home in city of Kuopio,
sure.
and I promised to my family to leave
Saturday
from
evening.
here. Yeah, Saturday evening, and we have 400 kilometers to drive back home. So I have promised to leave in 10 minutes. I'm really sorry about this, but
okay, don't worry.
If anyone have any questions afterwards, I'm happy to share our experiences in terms of impact investing in Finland. So please take contact to me, to the Center of Expertise for Impact Investing, which is a part of the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment in Finnish government. So we are happy to share, and we are happy to support whatever is needed.
Okay, Mika, thank you very much. If you have to go, it's been really great to have you here. I enjoyed the discussion quite a bit. We're going to continue with Gianluca, maybe
please,
on this aspect, and then we
can. And I'm very sorry to leave now, but it was my pleasure. And yes. Have a nice Saturday evening.
You too. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Mika. Okay, so maybe Gianluca, let's tackle this other final point. What can we say to people that want to get involved into that? We said before, people were asking, there is a platform, but for someone that want to get in impact investing, what are your suggestions?
You mean as an investor?
Yes, in your experience. So what can we tell them? Getting in venture capital, for a young profession, for someone that comes out of the university that comes out of a very initial experience, getting venture capital is quite complicated.
It's very
I would say. So what can we say for impact investing?
That's a very tricky and difficult
question.
Yeah, it's a very difficult journey because I think it's a sector that is not so big, that is just starting now, and so the opportunities are not so many. I think that personally, and I know that a lot of other people have different opinions, but my personal opinion is that to be a good investor, you need to be a good entrepreneur before.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So probably what I would suggest is start doing something, entrepreneurial projects, NGOs, specific projects, and actually that's really the experience that you need to build in order to also potentially evolve into an investor. So that was my story. I was an entrepreneur, I was a manager, then an entrepreneur, now I'm an investor. But it's actually those experiences that define who I am today. And it's very difficult to go into venture capital directly or to impact investing directly without having previously some, let's say, track record, experience, right, or whatever you want to call it. It takes a long journey to get to be an investor. It's right, it's long-term commitments. When you build a fund, it's a 10-year commitment. I mean, the fund that we launched this year, we closed in the 30s. So you have to
long journey.
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of people see this. They see us, those happy guys with the Porsche and the Ferraris throwing out money, but it's actually a 10-year job of working, struggling alongside with entrepreneurs and the many challenges that they will face in order to build their company or their initiative. That is really the essence of this business. So it's not a 100-meter run. It's like a marathon approach kind of job. So
I agree 100% because my experience is practically the same. I also, I am an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur, and I became, involved in investment later on. And I had a previous business angel experience, but then having a fund is different. I would say simply for the breadth of the opportunities and so on. And it's a marathon. It's a long marathon in which you never stop to learn. So this is what I really understand. If you think you know exactly, then something is wrong. You need to be able to learn in a continuous manner. Now, I don't know if there are any questions from the audience. We have a few minutes left, and we can allocate this to the audience. So let's see if anything else comes up. If not, I think we are done. I want to thank you, Mika and Gianluca, for the time spent. I enjoyed a lot the discussion, and these meetings are sometimes really very useful, even for the participants, because they can find themselves better in a community. And I thanks everyone from the audience to have spent this hour and a half, 15 minutes actually with us. And then I leave you to the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and have a good day today. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.